Hello, it's the NW Sportscast. We're here today with my good friend and employee, I guess employer, you could say, Brandon Patterson, and also a huge Seahawks fan. So we're going to be giving some insight into the Seahawks game against the Panthers and our early season thoughts. We're 3 weeks in. I like what I've seen so far. Brandon, how about you? Do you like what we've seen?
I'm liking what we've seen for the most part. I think there's a couple of things that I would love to see us work on in these upcoming weeks, especially since we have a couple weaker opponents coming
Yeah.
up. I've loved the offense for the most part. I want to see the run game a little more. Obviously the defense is a problem. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more, but for the most part, I'm liking what I've seen.
Yeah, I think the offense has been great, and this is what I expected. I expected the offense to be really good this year. I said we'd have a top five offense. Um, and I think we honestly, if you take away that one half against the Rams, I think we would have a top five offense. Uh, do you think we're gonna start to see more of the rookies in the coming weeks? Obviously, Jackson Smith-Njigba and Zach Charbonnet have kind of been absent. Charbonnet had a really nice run at the end of the game against the Panthers, but he still hasn't done a whole lot. And Smith-Njigba has basically just been a check down guy so far. So do you think we're going to see more of them?
I hope we do because you use a top 20 pick on a guy like JSN, you'd hope you could get him a little more involved in
Yeah.
just slants and screens and stuff like that. I really wanted them to take advantage of his speed, especially when defenses we're playing those better defenses that can maybe put some more pressure on DK and Lockett. I'd love to see them utilize JSN a little more. As far as Charbonnet goes, I've liked what I've seen in the limited time we've seen him. I think he runs hard. He finishes his runs. He gets that yards after contact, which is super important. So I think he's a good kind of side piece to Ken Walker. So I would like to see them get a, kind of more carries to Charbonnet down the road here, but I definitely JSN is the important key factor in this offense. And once we can start utilizing him a little more, I'm excited to see what we can do.
Yeah, I thought against Carolina, obviously DK was questionable going into the game. Tyler had gone into concussion protocol the week before, so you're thinking maybe, maybe our receivers are banged up. Maybe we see a little bit more of him, and he was kind of a non-factor. But obviously Jake Bobo, he got in the touchdown instead. So good to see him contribute. But I do think maybe against the Giants, they're kind of a weaker team. Maybe we get the rookies a little more involved.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
And speaking of rookies, so much praise has to be on Witherspoon right now. I mean, he has been so good. It was only 2 games, but what are your thoughts on him?
I mean, I don't want to say I'm surprised, but I'm happy to see that he's playing well. I was big, I'm still sort of on the boat of we should have picked Jalen Carter there at 5, but I'm very impressed with what we've seen from Spoon these first 2 games that he's played. I think he's confident, which is good, and he's able to back that up for the most part. He had that one penalty against him this last game against Carolina, which I think was a bogus penalty that he played that ball perfectly and they threw the flag, which happens
Yeah,
some,
bad call.
but absolutely. But I do really like what we're seeing from him. I think once Reek gets healthy, we've got a good duo there with our corners. So
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll maybe even saw a little bit of Richard Sherman inside of Witherspoon, just as far as the intensity that he plays with and the talent that he has. And I think Pete maybe is trying to recreate kind of that old Legion of Boom. He's got the hard hitting safety in Diggs. Kind of not, I wouldn't say he's as good as Cam Chancellor, but he kind of has the same style of play. And then you've got now hopefully two really elite cornerbacks. So yeah, I really think that our secondary is good. I will say the pass rush, iffy at times. We did play well against Carolina, but do you think that's more about us being good, or do you think that's more about the Carolina offensive line being bad?
I would have to say it's a Carolina offensive line thing. I've been saying since the offseason they have
Yeah.
a bottom 5 offensive line in the NFL. I was happy to see guys like Jaron Reed and Mario Edwards get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which was good to see. But again, I think it was more of a just they don't have a very good offensive line. So I'd love to see us continue to bring that pressure against more solidified offensive lines in the future.
Yeah, and I think getting Jamal, who is fingers crossed going to be back next week, getting him back, that should help the pass rush a lot because he was honestly he did more for the pass rush than he did for the coverage when he was playing the back. I mean, it's been 2 years really since we've seen Jamal Adams in a game. Because he pretty sure he like literally went down the first half of week 1 last year.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been a while since we've seen him, but I just remember he was such a force defensively, and he was really good.
Absolutely. And people on social media will clown Jamal Adams all day long, say we lost the trade, but they don't really realize how good of a defensive player he actually is when he's fully healthy
Yeah.
and playing at his top potential. He can cover decently compared to other safeties in the league. He can blitz, he can play the linebacker position if he has to. So I am really looking forward to getting him back in the mix. Especially with how some of our backup safeties have been playing in these first couple games. So I think Pete Carroll's all but confirmed that we should be seeing the debut of Jamal Adams next week on Monday night.
Yeah, that'll be huge. At this point, we just need to get Julian Love out of the game.
Absolutely.
He's just not the answer, and it has not looked good. I swear, against the Lions, every single time the Lions had a big play, it was Julian Love who blew the coverage.
Absolutely.
And I don't know why we thought. I mean, we went out and he was a starter last year.
And he was someone I was super excited to get this season. I thought he was
Yeah,
a big piece of the defense, and I don't know if it's just because maybe the lights are too bright for him, the role's too big, but it feels like every time we run that zone coverage, he's getting blown by every
he's
time. They're finding
yeah.
the
Well,
and he can't do anything. And then even when he does get there, he can't make tackles.
yeah, he struggled in all aspects of his game. I will say they are targeting him. The other teams are clearly saying, who's our fastest receiver? For the Lions, it was Josh Reynolds. And then for the Panthers, it was that one big play they got. It was Chark. Who's our
Yep,
fastest receiver? Okay, you're going to go after Julian Love. And we'll
absolutely.
let we'll let Adam Thielen go up against the rest of the, you know what I mean? So they clearly had a game plan for him, but you look at it and you're like, how did this guy? He was a starter last year, but then you think, oh, he was a starter for the Lions, and the Lions were not good at defense last year. So you know, take it with a grain of salt. But
And the
even
and the
still,
first
man,
right in the first 2 weeks, I was kind of giving him benefit of the doubt, saying, we're not getting pressure on the quarterback. The
yeah,
quarterback's running all day to throw. They're going to find those holes in the secondary. But this week again, we were getting good pressure on the quarterback, and he's still not making plays, not able to get to the guys in time. So I mean, I'm not closing the door entirely on Julian Love. I'd love to see what he's able to do in a lesser role once Jamal is back, but I do think he's someone who definitely needs to step it up out there on the defense.
yeah, I agree. The other thing that I feel like has really not being talked about by a lot of people, Bobby Wagner's return is having an effect. And I mean, I haven't heard Bobby Wagner's name much in the games because he's not making these flashy big plays. What he is doing, he has that linebacker core ready to go against the run. Last year, obviously our D line isn't good this year and it wasn't good last year. But last year, what we really struggled was that if the running back made it past the D line, they were pretty much guaranteed to get 10 yards on the play because our linebackers were outside of Jordan Brooks couldn't tackle. I mean, I remember how frustrating it was to watch Cody Barton last year. This year, Bobby Wagner, he seems to have those linebackers in check because we're not seeing these big runs. We're seeing a lot of 4, 5 yard carries. That's a lot better than it was last year.
Absolutely, and I definitely don't think the Seahawks brought in Bobby to be that cover linebacker. I mean, he hasn't been a solid cover linebacker the last 3-4 years in the league. But again, I think they brought him in as a locker room piece to mentor those younger linebackers and to definitely stop the run. I mean, they held the Panthers to 3.1 yards per carry average on the ground, which I think is a phenomenal improvement. I mean, you've seen in the first 2 games of the year and last season. I mean, guys are just gaping holes in our defense. They're running for 8-9 yards a carry. So it's definitely good to see Bobby stepping up and helping our defense make tackles.
Yeah, and him and Jordan Brooks, I think, are both on the top, like maybe 10% of the league in tackles right now. But yeah, the Panthers last year at home, they ran for like 250 yards on us. And I was
Deontay
worried
Foreman.
it was Foreman and Blackshear,
Yeah,
like the most random running backs. And Sam Darnold rushed for like 40 yards in that game, too.
yeah,
It's like, I was very worried that was going to happen again. And I was so happy to not see that.
absolutely. Yeah, they really were able to hold their own on, especially in the run. I thought. Yeah, it was definitely something good to see.
Yeah. So overall, what's your key takeaways from the game against the Panthers?
I was thinking about this a lot last night. My biggest takeaway from that game is it could have been a huge trap game for the Seahawks. I mean, you've seen the past couple of seasons, they go in, we think this is an easy win. It's a backup quarterback. It's not a very good team. We just played so well against the Lions. We're a little banged up, but I think we'll be fine. It could have been a big trap game. We could have blown that game. We could have lost by double-digit scores. You see what happened to Dallas. They had an injured offensive line. They get blown out by the Arizona Cardinals, the arguably worst team in the NFL this year. You have the Baltimore Ravens losing to Gardner Minshew. They had, I think, 8 of their starters on the injured list that week. So it
Yeah.
definitely could have been an easy loss for us to take. So I was very impressed with how we finished that game, especially in the second half. I know a lot of people were concerned in that first half that we were only getting field goals. I wasn't super concerned just because we were proving we could march the ball down the field, and it just ended up our drives were stalling there in the red zone. So I knew if it really came down to it in that game, we're down by 4. Gino has to march the field to score a game-winning touchdown. I was confident he was going to be able to do that, just with how well we were able to move the ball throughout that game. So definitely super impressed with the way they finished that game. Again, it could have been an easy loss for us. So
Yeah, I was worried. And I was even texting you at one point. I was worried. Andy Dalton has beat us 3 times in his career, which is crazy. Including last year. And the Panthers beat us last year. I was like, this is a recipe for disaster. We got a team that usually beats us and a quarterback that usually beats us. And like it's such a trap game written all over it. And at first, we were struggling, but I looked at the numbers at halftime. I was like, okay, we're dominating this game as far as yards, as far as time of possession. We're dominating the game. We just weren't getting the points. And, the guys in my dorm, all of them 49ers fans, which I hate, they're all making fun of me. Oh, you guys can't score. You guys are terrible. I said, guys, look at it. If not for 2 bad third down calls, we could be leading like 24-12, but instead it's 13-12. You know what I mean? We missed out on a couple of touchdowns. And then in the second half, we got those lucky breaks on third down. You knew it was going to come. Like Kenneth Walker's too good to not find the end zone at all in a game.
absolutely, and I think there's still kind of a touch of getting used to this new offense for Shane Waldron. I know he's been here the last couple of years. Obviously,
Yeah.
we have a lot of weapons, and I think he's still in a way trying to figure out how to use them, especially with Gino taking over last year. I mean, I love the little slant to DK, run that play every time. It works every time. He's getting 8-9 yards on these slants. That and run the
So
ball.
good.
Waldron at times I feel like tries to get a little too cute with his play calling with the direct snap to DJ Dallas on 3rd and 2 or something like that. I want to see the slants to DK, hit Lockett open over the middle and run the ball. I mean, it works every game, and then we for some reason shy away from it. So I would love to see us stick with the same game plan and just go with what works, because at the end of the day, it does work, and I think that'd be how we get in the end zone a little easier and a little sooner in those games.
Yeah, that's so true, and it's something that goes beyond just like the Seahawks, beyond just football. Sports coaches, sometimes they think they are smarter than the rest of the people. You see it in baseball all the time. Guy, I'm not meaning to call out the Mariners, but when I see Scott Service rolling out lineups with Sam Haggerty and Josh Rojas, I think to myself, what the heck are you doing? You have like resting Jared Kelenic against the Rangers this weekend. Sports people think I'm smarter. I'm gonna figure out the analytic way. I'm gonna figure out the Seahawks. Oh, it's third and 8. The analytics says the best winning percentage odds that we should do is throw a 2-yard screen pass and punt it away. Sometimes you just have to do what works. You can get 10 yards on a slant to DK, so just do that, or
Right,
at least just try. A two
right.
yard screen does nothing.
And I think Cervase and Pete Carroll are 2 branches from the same tree. They're both very
Yeah.
I think they both have very similar coaching styles. But I mean, like, you look
Players,
other teams,
coaches.
right, and other teams know how to use their weapons. You look at the Dolphins put up 70 freaking points against the Denver Broncos because they knew their strengths. They said we're
Yeah.
faster than everybody else on the field. We're going to give it to our playmakers, and they're going to make a play. I mean, as much as I love DJ Dallas, he should not be getting offensive snaps at this point. You've got unless
No.
one of Walker or Sharps goes down, there's no reason Dallas should be getting offensive play snaps. When he gets the ball, he gets 3 yards of carry. That's about it. I think he's great. I liked what I saw from him on returns, but I think we really need to just focus on using our weapons. You've got guys that we've used high draft picks on these last couple of years. Use them. You've got guys like Tyler Lockett. Use him a little more. I think he only had 3 or 4 catches this last game. Get him the ball. Let him make the plays. Yeah, that's all I can really say about that.
I agree about Dallas as well. He's at this point he is firmly in the top half of returners, I think, in the league, especially for punts. Putting him out there to get a 2-yard rush on third down, all that does is it hinders our chances offensively because he's not making big plays. But B, it just gives him an opportunity to get hurt. And I would rather not put the potential for my solid return man to get injured on a 2-yard rush. You know what I mean?
Right, and it's much easier to swallow if it's 3rd and 2 if Kenneth Walker gets stuffed for no gain. That's an
Yeah.
easy thing to swallow. When it's DJ Dallas getting stuffed for no gain, that's frustrating to see because it's why is he in there in the first place on this crucial 3rd down?
Yeah. I have a feeling when McIntosh gets in there, that he might become the new kind of third down guy.
Absolutely.
Or like the pitch guy. I noticed we like to do these pitches to DJ Dallas. That could be more of McIntosh's thing.
Right.
So yeah, but so far, yeah, good returns, good punt returns,
Right.
and
Yeah,
great
I think
special teams all around last week.
right.
Jason Myers saved his career
Absolutely.
potentially.
Absolutely. He had a great bounce back game. And I think that's kind of the epitome of Jason Myers. He does that a lot. He'll go have a horrible game. He'll miss an extra point, miss a field goal, and then he'll come back the next game and just be nails, hitting 50-yard field goals. I think he said I think I read in a news report he had a franchise record for most field goals in a half or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we're not that happy about. We want to score touchdowns, but definitely good to see a bounce back performance from Myers there because he is I do think at the end of the day he's a great kicker and he just has to capitalize on those opportunities that he gets.
I wouldn't say he's great. I think he's solid from 45 yards and less. I think past those 45 yards, it's, say your prayers and hold your breath. But there's a lot of kickers right now who have been struggling. So I think
Right.
maybe it's a lot of older kickers that just don't have. I mean, Justin Tucker missed a game-winning kick for the Ravens. So I
Yep.
think a lot of these older kickers are kind of struggling right now. So maybe something to look into next year in the draft. But I think for now, Jason is the guy. He's got to stick with him.
I definitely think in the draft or in free agency next year we do need to go a different direction just because of how much money Myers is making. I don't know the exact
Yeah.
cap hit, but they just restructured his deal and he's making a lot of money. So if you're making the big bucks, you got to be able to make the big kicks. And so far, he hasn't been able to make the big kicks.
Yeah. Luckily, it didn't matter against the Lions. But my next question for you, Brandon, I'm looking at the power rankings today, and I was like, okay, where are they going to put the Seahawks? Because I thought after, looking at the Cowboys losing, we saw the Ravens lose, we saw a lot of teams that the Falcons lost, teams that people perceived as maybe better than us, they all lost. And the Seahawks obviously put what I thought was a dominant win. We won by 10, but really we won by 17. That was a garbage time touch. I was cheering for the garbage time touchdown because I had Thielen starting in fantasy. So I
Right.
was happy about that. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with the garbage time touchdown in my eyes. They were starting rookies. So Seahawks, dominant win. And then I look at the power rankings, 14th, 16th, 17th. Nobody believes in us yet. When do you think
And here's
people
the
will
thing,
believe in us?
they never will. And I don't pay attention to the power rankings for that same reason. You have all these NFL analysts who think they know what they're talking about, and in reality, they don't watch the games. They
No,
look at the outcome of the
clearly.
game. They look at the stats. They don't watch the games. So they love their Dallas Cowboys. They love their Kansas City Chiefs. They love their Philadelphia Eagles. The list goes on and on. They're gonna put these teams high every week because they feel like they have to because they have the Patrick Mahomes and they have the whoever. Like I think even the Bengals. The Bengals were higher than us after last week, and they're 0-2.
Yeah.
They
They
love
might
Joe
be
Burrow.
0-3.
They're not going to rank Joe Burrow below Geno Smith. They're not going to do it. So I think it's super
The Rams are tied with them right now. So,
right. That's what I mean. I think it's important not to pay attention to the power rankings because again, time after time they've proven they don't know what they're talking about.
yeah, I mean, I look at it and I say, I think the Eagles are better. I think the Chiefs are better. I think the Dolphins and probably the Bills
I think the Dolphins are the best.
and probably the 49ers. So I'd say there's 5 teams I think are better. I think we could be, there's an argument, Seattle number 6 in the league. Obviously the Rams lost Hurts. So maybe the Rams are 6 and we're 7, but I think clearly people think the Rams suck and they think that the Seahawks lost to the Rams, but the Rams I think are a lot better than people are saying.
I think the Rams are definitely a dark horse. You have Matt Stafford back there looking like his self. He's slinging the ball. Puka Nakua is finding ways to get open. Which I don't even think that's a testament really to Puka Nakua. I love all the things he's doing. I think
Yeah,
that's a
it's
testament to Sean McVay's
McVay.
offensive mind and
So good.
showing that he can get receivers open no matter who they are. But back to the power rankings. I mean, I think you take away that second half against the Rams, and we're a top offensive powerhouse in this league.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I think people are looking too much into it. I'm definitely interested to see what we can do against the Giants coming up next week. Because again, I mean, you play these teams that are supposedly bad. You think you should win by quite a bit, which was again, we basically beat these Panthers team by 17.
Well, we were favored by 5, and we beat them, and we dominated the game. So I thought that
Right,
was
but
a very good game.
I want to see a 70-20 score against these bad teams, Levi. Because that's what
Well, the
you do.
Seahawks don't really do that. Pete
No, I
Carroll's
know.
he's never been a blowout artist
Right,
because he puts the brakes on when we're winning. He puts the brakes on, and when we're
right,
losing, well, oftentimes we have to come back. But that's, in my opinion, it's not how you win. It's that you win, and
exactly.
we got the win.
I
We
agree.
2 in a row, and I think the key stretch: Bengals, Ravens, and Browns. We play 3 out of 4 weeks after a bye. I think if we win 2 of those 3 games and the Cardinals are sandwiched in between, don't let the Cardinals do what they did to us against the Cowboys. All of a sudden, you're looking like we could be like 6-2, assuming we beat the Giants also. I mean, I think this
Absolutely.
is a great start to the season.
And again, it's just, we can't fall for those trap games.
Yeah.
Again, the Giants one's another one. They haven't looked very good, but you never know. That's why they play the games every Sunday. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So definitely, the Cardinals are another team. I could see us going in and having a blunder and losing to the Cardinals. So we really just need to focus, play our own game, do what works, and I think the success will follow.
Yeah, just don't leave that margin for error because we're going to need that margin for error when we're playing the Cowboys and 49ers back-to-back weeks on the road.
Absolutely.
That's when you're like, okay, we might lose one of these games, maybe both of these games.
Right.
So we want to have as good of a record as possible going into that. And I think we
Right.
can do it. I think we're very capable right now. We
Absolutely.
look dangerous. We're going to get our injured guys back. I mean, this
Yep.
is Charles Cross should be back soon.
Yep.
Cross your fingers about Charles Cross.
Yeah. Pete was saying potentially this week, but they don't want to rush him.
They
So
don't want to rush him.
my guess is I think we'll see him the week after this Giants game.
Yeah. Well, we got the bye. So
Absolutely. Oh, you're right.
the assumption would be we beat the Giants, rest our guys, they can get healthy over the bye, and then it's full steam ahead against a Bengals team that's underperformed a lot.
Absolutely.
Well, Brandon, I can't finish this video without asking you about your school. Obviously, I got my UW sticker back there, but I do also root for the other Washington team. I'm not a one-sided fan. I root for the Cougars and the Huskies down here in California. And the Cougars, what do you think about their win against the Ducks? Or not the Ducks, the Beavers.
Listen, man, Cougs against the whole world at this point. They disrespected us this offseason with the Pac-12 realignment, and we're showing them we mean business. I mean, look at who the Huskies. I'll get to it in a second. The Cougs are playing great football. They're doing what they're doing right. They're beating top 20 teams. They beat Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. They just beat Oregon State this last week in a game no one said we had a shot.
And still only ranked at 16.
Right. And I think Cam Ward is doing a phenomenal job. If you look at the stats, I don't know how he's not in the Heisman conversation anymore at this point than Michael Penix is. I think Michael Penix is playing great football as well. But
Penix is a little crazy.
Who have the Huskies played? The
That's
Huskies have played.
That's true.
Cam Ward's putting up 400 yards against a stout Beaver defense, who people were saying was one of the best defenses in college football. And Cam Ward's putting up 400 passing yards, another 40 on the ground, 5 total touchdowns.
Good players come out of WSU.
Absolutely.
As we saw against the Colts and Ravens, as former Washington State quarterback Gardner Minshew goes out and gets the upset. I honestly, I think there's a chance, and maybe I'm an idiot for thinking this, between the Ducks, Cougars, Huskies, I think any of those 3 teams I could see coming out of the Pac-12 North. I think the Huskies will end up winning it, but I know better than anyone. I've watched a lot of Huskies games. They always seem to have that one game where they just get upset. I mean,
Right.
we've lost to Stanford before when Stanford goes like 3-9 and we go 9-3 and we'll still somehow lose to Stanford. You know what I mean? It
Right.
just happens.
Right.
So I think both Washington schools right now are good, but I have to feel bad. Cougars and Cougars and Beavers, that was maybe like probably the second best game of the weekend besides the Notre Dame Ohio State game. And these are two teams that after this year are pretty much not going to have a platform.
Right. And I think all respect to Ohio State and Notre Dame, but I think our game over here in Pullman should have been the game day game. They should have gotten those guys over here because it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's got the story. It's two top teams. Give us the game day. I mean, we love it over here in Pullman. Um,
Yeah,
you
it's a
can
great culture.
right, and you can never count the Cougs out. That's what I've been telling everybody this whole season. I think they're playing with a great chip on their shoulder. Coach Dickert's doing a great job. Um, what I'll say to all the doubters out there is keep doubting us because all it does is fuel that fire for the Cougs. Because we're as confident as ever and we're ready to play whoever comes into our house.
Yeah, and if you're looking at next year, a 12-team playoff format, assuming, WSU and Oregon State, and who knows who they're going to be playing against, but you would think that theoretically whoever wins their conference would probably get one of those top 12 spots into the playoffs. So maybe this could actually benefit
Right,
WSU. If I mean, there's a scenario where the Cougars could go 12-0 against 12 bad teams and two good wins, one against OSU and one against, say, like you schedule a game early on in the season, then that gives you a chance to play on a national stage. Maybe this is a good thing.
right. And I think at the end of the day, we just want the respect that we know we deserve as Cougs because we've got the playmakers. We're getting the top wins. We're beating the good teams, and still we feel like there's a lack of respect there for us. I mean, you had Lee Corso saying no. I think he called it the "No one will watch bowl" about the game this weekend. And our coach Dicker had great things to say about that. That he thinks Lee's getting a little old, and they just hand him a card to try to make a joke, which I think couldn't be more true. I think if everybody's watching the Cougs, if you look at the numbers, we have some of the highest televised games. So I think it's a big mistake leaving us out of those changes with the Pac-12, and I think they're going to see that this season as it continues.
Well, you play close games and you win. That's what you have to do. So yeah, always fun to watch the Cougars. Always fun to watch the Huskies too. I just miss Washington sports, and I just being at a school where there's no football, or there is a football team, but the Toreros
Right,
are not. They're not a real football team. It's
right,
it's tough for me, man, down here, but it's fun to watch. I always get on the every Saturday, every Sunday, just getting on the computer, watching all the games. So that's
right.
been fun for me to keep up on. But with that being said, I think we'll wrap this episode up. For those of you guys who are watching, let us know, do we need to bring Brandon back for more analysis? I think we
I
do.
think I need to be back. I think
I think we do. We're having lots more guests on the show. I hope you guys appreciate it, enjoy it. I certainly do. I love to hear what everyone has to say about sports.
sweet.
Okay, I'm pausing the. I'm